get them open up to Romans chapter 12. That's where we're going to be this evening. We're also going to be a couple other places, so you'll need to be ready to flip around in the Bible a little bit, but we'll get there here in a second. I want to begin out tonight thinking about this man right here, Judas. Now, I will promise you that it is tough to find somebody that is worse than Judas, okay? Some have said that Judas was a good man who just made a bad choice, okay? I don't buy that. As a matter of fact, I don't even believe that. John chapter 12, verse 6 calls Judas a thief. I want you to hear that. Don't feel like you got to turn there with me, but I just want you to hear that so that you know I'm not making this up. Talking about Judas, it says, not that he cared for the poor, he was a thief. And since he was in charge of the disciples' money, he often stole some for himself. Judas was not a good guy. He was a crook. And somehow, some way, he was able to live in the presence of God and experience the miracles of Christ, yet remain completely unchanged and unfazed by it all. And at the end of his story, he decided that he would rather have money than a friend. He sold Jesus out for 30 pieces of silver. Yeah, Judas, he was a scoundrel, a cheat, and a bum, okay? I don't know how anybody could see it any other way. I don't know how, and I really don't even understand how, but Jesus saw him as a friend. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 50, Jesus addresses Judas. Judas is only inches away from the face of Jesus when Jesus looks him in the eye and he says, "My friend, go ahead and do what you have come for." I have no idea what Jesus saw in Judas. I don't know how he found anything worthy of saying the word friend and calling him a friend. I can't even imagine calling somebody like this a friend. But we know that Jesus doesn't lie. And in that moment, he saw something good in a very bad man. A matter of fact, it would be easy to even say that in that moment, Jesus modeled exactly what he expects us to do to those that hurt us. And I have no doubt that he continues to show us the same type of love that he showed Judas every time we hurt him, and every time we disappoint him, and every time we do something mean or hateful towards him. So if you're following along in your Bibles, I want you to look at Romans chapter 12, verse 14. We're going to camp on this one verse this evening. And it's a simple enough verse. Romans chapter 12, verse 14. It says, "Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them." I want you to notice how this verse is telling all of us that are Christians, is telling us how we need to relate to others in this world. And more importantly, it's not just saying how we need to relate to the people that we like in this world. It's telling us how we need to relate to the people that are our enemies, the people that we don't like, the people that we'd rather not even talk to. We're encouraged to find love for everyone, even those who call us names, even those who leave us out, even those who put us down or are hateful or mean to us. A matter of fact, this verse echoes Jesus' own words. If you want to flip back with me here, you can. The verses are here on your screen. Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. I want you to hear how similar, or maybe just stay at Romans 12, 14 and just listen to how similar Paul's words in Romans are to the words that Jesus says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. He says, "But I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you." And then if you flip over to Luke chapter 6, once again, you hear almost the same identical words, verses 27 and 28. But to you who are willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who hurt you. I'm at a loss for words, because these are definitely not a normal human reaction. And it's not normal human instinct to go about like this. Someone hurts you, someone hurts us, we want to curse them. And we most definitely want to avoid doing good for them and helping them out. You know, the good old boy nature in me, I'd give you the shirt off my back. But that same good old boy nature, you stab me in the back, and you're probably never getting a shirt from me again. My Christianity pushes me to be very different. Instead of calling for revenge on the people that hurt us, we should be praying for them and their relationship with Jesus. Now think about that for a second. When somebody hurts you, when somebody makes you mad, when somebody puts you down, I promise you, your first reaction is not to pray for their relationship with Jesus. You might pray a lot of things for them, but you definitely are not praying for them to come to know Jesus and experience his love and forgiveness. More than times than not, you're probably praying about like the country song that says, pray for you, where it talks about praying for a flat tire and a flower pot to fall off the windowsill on your head and stuff like that. The truth is, though, that as a follower of Jesus, it's no longer about an eye for an eye. If we're going to call ourselves Christian, and if we're going to claim to follow Christ, we have to live a very revolutionary lifestyle. A lifestyle that is so different and so completely against everything in this world that we stand out. You see, that's what Jesus calls us to. He calls us to live in a way that makes us different from the world around us. And that's loving and praying for those that hurt us. You know, I'd never thought much about this until I was studying this past week, and I was thinking about loving our enemies is one of the most powerful ways of converting lost people that we have. Because it is exactly the opposite of what everybody else expects you to do. And I think one of the reasons it's so hard for us to love our enemies is that the devil knows that when we love our enemies, it gives us opportunities to share with them and witness to them and give them God's love and share with them a part of what we have. And I have no doubt that Satan doesn't want that to happen. So he gets in your ear and he begins to whisper these little seeds of bitterness and resentment and revenge, saying, you don't love that person. Think about what they did to you. You see, the truth is that Christians who follow Paul's teaching, Christians who embrace Romans 12:14, are going to stand out in our culture, especially in our culture today. And yet we'll be doing exactly what Christ expects for us. We'll be imitating him, his words, and his example. I want you to hear one other passage here. And it's out of Luke. And it's chapter 23, verse 34. And as much as these other verses and words of Jesus have been powerful, this example takes the cake. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. And the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. Now, many of you probably know exactly where this verse is and what's going on at this point in time in the story and life of Jesus. He is hanging on the cross. His life is in the balance. And in that one moment, what does he do? He prays that God would forgive those that put him there, because they don't know what they did. Holy cow. What an incredible example. Now, I want to speak on another thing for just a second here, just kind of a little bit of a side note. We have to practice this type of love even with other Christians, okay? Even those Christians that hurt us. You know, there are some Christians in our world today that their words and actions really aren't measuring up to what Jesus has put out there. And they hurt other people and they hurt us. And then we kind of somehow justify being hurtful and mean to them in big and small ways. The reality is nothing communicates sincere love back to someone who's being hurtful towards you than doing good for them and refusing to strike back. Nothing you do can impact the world around you as greatly as loving your enemies. Showing love to the people that you don't even want to talk to. An Austrian army commander was ordered to lay siege to a small village. And throughout this particular part of the country, his army had met very stubborn resistance. But the advantage was clearly his, okay? He had a very strong and very large army, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before he would be victorious. The commander's confidence, as you can imagine, was astronomically high. And it was only shook so slightly when one of the prisoners that they had gotten out of another village confidently stated to him, "You will never capture this village that you're about to attack because they have an invincible leader." The commander, he wondered, who could this leader be? I've never heard of such a leader. So he began to question some of his leaders and some of his other generals to see if they had any idea who this leader in this village they were about to attack was that was supposedly invincible. And no one seemed to know anything about an invincible leader. So the commander dismissed the prisoner's statement. But being a cautious leader, he doubled his preparations because, you know, just in case there was a little bit of truth here, I want to be ready for it. And the day came for him to attack the village. And as they approached the village, they found, as they're getting closer to the village, they find cattle still grazing in the pastures outside the village. They find people still working in the fields as if nothing was going to happen. Either the village is not expecting an invading army or it's a trap, the commander began to think. Well, he cautiously continues his march towards the village with flags flying and horns sounding a challenge and weapons drawn and at their ready. You can just imagine what this commotion looked like and sounded like. And this commotion brought men and women and children to their doorways. But no one panicked. No one got nervous. The village people, they just kind of went to their door to see what all the craziness was about, and then they went back to doing their household chores as if there was no threatening army anywhere near them. No worry, no panic. As they marched through the village, it became increasingly more difficult to maintain order in the ranks. Some of the soldiers, they began visiting with the children that were out on the streets as they passed by. One even blew a kiss to one of the children, commenting to another soldier saying, "That little girl over there, she looks just like my own little Lisa that's at home right now." The commander, he found no sign of ambush anywhere. He found no sign of panic anywhere. Finally, standing in the open square in the center of the town, the commander, he fully expected the battle to begin. He fully expected that things were about to throw down, that something was about to happen. And out of the main door of the town hall, the mayor emerges, a little white-haired man. No weapon, dressed rather simply in peasant clothes, with 10 men following him. All of them very unimpressed by the large, intimidating army standing in front of him. And the mayor, he sticks his hand out and says, "Welcome." Now, as he sticks his hand out, a soldier in the army immediately pulls out his sword just in case he was going to need it. to protect his leader. But it was apparent that the old man meant no harm. The commanding officer said, "Where are your soldiers?" The mayor responded, "Soldiers? We have no soldiers." And gave a very puzzled look back to the commander as if he had just asked, "Where are your elephants?" "We've come to take your village." "Well, no one will stop you." "Are there none here that are going to fight us?" "Nope. There's no one here that's going to fight. You see, we've chosen Christ as our leader, and he taught us another way to go about life." The commander knew no military strategy for overcoming this situation. After talking with his leaders, the commander retreated, leaving the village untouched. He wrote in his journal the following statement: This village was impossible to take. Had I ordered my men to fire on those smiling men, women, and children, I knew they would have never obeyed me. Even military discipline has its limits. Could I command a soldier to shoot down a child who reminded him of his own? I reported to headquarters that the town had offered unsaleable resistance. Although the admission damaged my reputation quite a bit, I was right. We had been conquered by these simple folk who followed implicitly the leadership of Jesus Christ. What Jesus teaches still baffles people today, yet it's still all true. And he expects us to strive to adhere to those teachings if we're to call ourselves his followers. We are to love our enemies and pray for them rather than seek revenge or hate them. Now, I'm going to bet that if I gave you a piece of paper and a pen, you could think of a few people right now without too much effort that you're not very fond of. I imagine you could think of some people who have harassed you and hurt you. People who you would never call a friend. Yet Jesus loves those very same people as much as he loves you and I. He cares for those same people as much as he cares for us. He looks at them, and despite their flaws, he sees the good in them. Maybe we can too. You know, unfortunately, there's not a lot of Christians who have taken this seriously. But could you just imagine if we did? Could you just imagine what our world would look like if just 10% of the Christians in this world took this teaching seriously? And we loved our enemies and we prayed for them rather than seeking revenge and hate. Guys, I'm going to dismiss you to your small groups to continue this discussion.